I haven't seen the preliminary study. It's supposed to be coming out in a couple of weeks.
And on behalf of the Dixon Street Merchants Association, I would ask that we delay making any decisions about this in any capacity, whether it be all the lot, partial lots, what have we not, until we do get the comprehensive parking study back and we can see from top to bottom, do we have currently, or do we have adequate parking, or do we have an immense shortage of parking, until we can clearly lay out this and view the study that we've paid the $96,000 for. The Dixon Street Merchants Association would request that the council hold off on taking any action on hearing RFPs or issuing RFPs until that study is complete.
Now, the transportation study as a whole will not be ready until next year. But I think yes.
Mayor, if
the
I could
parking
ask,
study,
if I could just ask Chris Brown, so that everyone's clear, what the city will receive at the end of this month versus what we contracted as a part of the contract. So Chris, could you describe that just so we're all on the same page?
Okay, one of the first deliverables from the Transportation Master Plan is a parking demand analysis. So it's basically taking the studies that we've done, the information that they pulled, that Peter's group pulled together, with counting all of the cars in each parking lot. They will provide us with essentially a technical memo that describes the availability of parking versus demand. They also will be looking at future land use, future development, so they'll be giving us future demand analysis as well. So essentially we'll kind of give you a snapshot of what's out there now, how much that's being utilized, and then going forward what the demand will look like. So this is just the initial review of that, the parking demand.
Okay, Chris, on that, then there's like the overall transportation plan, but then there's the parking end of it. Is that going to come in any quicker than the master transportation plan?
There are obviously a lot of other parts to the plan that it'll be the fall. We'll start seeing some of the initial concepts, but this initial memo, the initial demand analysis, they have told us by the end of June. So coming up, and it may be delayed a little bit just based on some discussions that we've had, but that part is coming. So we will know really what the current and future demand is on a preliminary basis. Obviously, there's more work to be done.
And those are not the finalized numbers, though, exactly.
That's right. They're not the final numbers. And the other big part of the parking that we've talked about is, the entertainment district versus the downtown and the management of that. And there's still a lot of work to be done around that. Potential changes in fees. There are a lot of different things that they'll be looking at. But this initial existing and future demand is what we're expecting at the end of this month.
Any questions for Chris? Okay. Thank you, Chris.
I think somebody said earlier we're not a 36,000 person sleepy little college town, and clearly we're not. I'm an advocate of growth and development and investment in this area. I love to go visit with the mayor in his office about igniting economic development in our area and creating things like attainable housing and green businesses and enduring postcard towns. I think someone used that phrase earlier. I also am an adjunct faculty at the University of Arkansas, and I know where the parking problem is up there. And so frequently during the day, I see lots of my students walking up the hill on Dixon Street. So I think there's just a comprehensive view that we have to have before we start one-offing, picking off parking spaces from key lots, especially in light of the WAC, the $23 million WAC renovation not being complete yet. So they have yet to realize the full potential of what that expansion will do. Lastly, the last point I'll make is that a few years ago when we voted on this bond initiative to raise the money for the WAC project and the regional sports park, I was very involved with getting that bond initiative passed because I felt like it was the right thing to do for growth and development, especially in our downtown area. I supported that, as did many of my friends, on the premise that we would have access to get to the Walton Arts Center. And by that, I mean not parking 4 to 5 blocks away. My grandmother's 90 years old. She loves to come 3 or 4 times a year to the art center, and it's not feasible for her to walk 4 or 5 blocks away. So I think in essence, for those of us that did support the bond initiative to revamp that, it was on the premise that we would have the public convenience of having parking next to this expansion. So I would just ask that the council take a step back, take a deep breath. I don't believe we're in analysis paralysis, as we call it in our business, when investors can't make decisions. I think we just step back a little bit and wait till we get all of the clear facts before we move forward with the RFP process to avoid any potential legal situations, which we heard an example of earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who else would like to address us?
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. Hunter Haynes, 4796 Prestwick. Thank you. I want to try, there's several things I'd like to get into. I kind of want to clear up, I struggle with why this is even being presented, and I appreciate what was said about the opportunities that are here and opportunity costs that are lost. But the offer that's been made is essentially 45 cents on a dollar for a piece of property. I understand it's going through a negotiating process and going through a contract. The timeline that's laid out is 2 months to negotiate a contract, 12 months before submitting a building permit, and not closing until after a building permit is secured. So, I'm sorry, I really struggle to understand how we're getting a windfall of anything here in any cash in any reasonable amount of time. And then we're talking about this money going towards doing this off-site parking. That's great. I think that's wonderful, but we're paying essentially what 1 year's revenue is off each one of those spaces is contribute to do that off-site parking. It's $87,000. That's building 1,000 lineal feet, approximately of 8 feet of sidewalk and curb. It's doing, this is the part that I like a lot. It's taking 550 feet of property that's currently used as a parking lot, adjusting that property line over so the city essentially losing that property. And if we're going to use the appraised value of $44.27, that's $194,000 that we've thrown away. And then we're going to go up the way to Nadine Baum Studio. And then we're going to take property from the university. That's what the proposal is in order to accomplish this off-site parking, this net neutral parking. That's $270,000 just in property right acquisition. If I run conservatively, I'm sorry to understand how this is, from a fiscal sense, net neutral in any way. Let alone how, if I'm taking my property line 8 feet along the 550 feet that is along west of this parking lot, and I'm moving my property line 8 feet to the west, what am I going to do with the 29 parking spaces that I'm impacting there? Do all those now become compact cars? Do all those go away? I don't understand that. And then who's responsible for restructuring all the parking inside of the existing surface lot, along with the downtime and lots of questions there. The way this was presented was, well, the way I understood it, and I'm obviously one of the individuals that would love to participate in the RFP process. I think this is a wonderful piece of property, as a lot of people do. But going through the traffic study process in order to get clear understandings of what the real situations were so that everything could be done in an open, equitable, in the light of day discussion analysis is what I fully anticipated and what I thought was fair and willing to totally abide by. This is not that way. This is taking consideration of one piece of property that, for whatever reason, it's been seen fit to bring it forward now. The dates on the proposal are March 9th, 2016. Why almost 4 months later is today the day we got to do this? We have to look at this thing. And then there's been discussion of opportunity cost. Based on the timelines we're talking about, I can't understand an opportunity cost in any way, shape, or form. So, another thing that was said was the full light of the facts, having all those, and wanting to make sure that was done. That is in no way, shape, or form what I feel is being done or asked of the rest of the council by this agenda. And I would ask that everybody take a step back and really ponder that question. Is this the intent of what we intended to do through our process, and how do we want to move forward? So, and if we're all throwing offers out there, I would buy the property tomorrow. I'll close on it in 30 days for the price per square foot that they're offering and maintain it as a surface parking lot. You can manage it. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to address us?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Steve Clark. I'm a Fayetteville resident, 438 East Fairway Lane, president of the Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce. This proposed development came to our attention months ago. At the time it was presented to us, we thought it had lots of potential, lots of promise. Our concerns were about parking for two reasons. One, as your economic development advisor, we tell you we need parking, and you heard that, Mayor, when you came into office, and there is a Spring Street parking deck there, and there was one promised for 20 years that never got there. It's there. But we still claim we need more parking. So please understand, and I'd like all the council to make note of, from the Chamber's perspective, both as advice to you and as advocate for businesses, we need more parking. Now, how that takes shape and what form, I don't know. It might be a deck, it might be surface parking, it might be something else. There are new ideas out there. There are new ways to use parking spaces for multi-purposes, not just to address a vehicle at different parts of the day and time, but we believe in parking. We now are the landlords, 10 tenants on the square. Believe me, we believe in parking. If they can't park, they can't eat Tim's Pizza. If they can't eat Tim's Pizza, he can't pay my rent. I want parking. Real simple, real simple. But all that being said, the world has changed on us in terms of economic development. We at the Chamber sometimes try to tell our new prospective members that this isn't your father's chamber and this isn't your grandfather's chamber. We're more into innovation and making and other sorts of things that were not what the 20th century was in economic development. In the 20th century, economic development was green fields and empty buildings. If you got a place to build a building, it's available today, and you give it to me for $1 and a handshake and a hug, we're there. If you got a building and it's empty and you'll rent it to us for 65 cents a square foot and a handshake and a hug, we're there. That doesn't work anymore. Really, economic development in the 21st century is about talent and a sense of place. And one of the things that we saw about this project that we thought made it attractive was the sense of place that it helps create. So we started with the proposition, anything that diminishes the number of parking space is bad, even by the number one. Diminishes by one, if it's not neutral, it's bad. I've heard the mayor say that. I've heard some of the city council say that. So this met that challenge. We then looked at it as a sense of place. We are number 10 of about 350 MSAs around the country in percentage of millennials. We want to be number one. Millennials are not unlike boomers. They are affected by the sense of place. They're drawn to the sense of place. We have some things that give us a great sense of place, but we're adding to those, and we need to continue to add to those to be competitive not only as a community and a region, but as a region and a community and a nation and in a world. So our trails make a sense of place. Councilman Marsh has quoted me a time or two as saying where I've said that the trails are ribbons of commerce. They clearly are. That's irrefutable. You just cannot challenge that. That's the truth. And that's the sense of place. We see this project as one which is about sense of place. We don't see it about taking away parking spaces. We don't see it about making a premature decision about how to use a small parcel of land that's adjacent to a larger parcel of land. We tell you that whatever it says at the end of June or the end of July about parking needs and demands, we want to multiply that times 3. We're going to say, we think we're going to grow that fast. We're going to need those spaces. And if they're not for automobiles, they're for scooters. If they're not for scooters, they're for bicycles. If they're not for bicycles, they're for people using public transportation. I was just in one of our businesses in downtown this morning exercising, wearing my Jeremy Pate glasses now. And the owner said to me, this is the best summer I've ever had in my business. And he said, the only thing I can attribute to is how many people live downtown. And they just walk over. That's the changing nature of our community. We see this project. We're not critical of, you get to make decisions on timelines. That's your decision. But we're telling you that we don't see that this project does anything to hinder the advancement of what we're trying to do to address the parking issue and what we're trying to do to advance that sense of place that is Fayetteville. And there is a new Fayetteville, and it is emerging, and it is developing a real strong sense of place. I spoke in Little Rock today to a group of people from across the nation who are in the rural electric business. And 3 of them said, you know, I've never been there, but I've heard a lot about your place. We were striving 5 years ago to be that kind of community. We say we'd like to be like Austin. People say, Austin's a great place. Never been there, but I want to go. Boulder's a great place. Never been there, but I want to go. You know, how people say that. Well, we're getting some of that achievement now, and I think that is directly tied to that sense of place. So we see this project as adding to that identity. Now, I professed this to a member of the city council last week, and that person expressed shock and dismay. I said that my spouse, many of you know my spouse, and I have taken up bicycle riding. And the councilman said, that's dangerous, and that probably is a correct assessment. But we're riding those trails every weekend now, 10, 12, and 15 miles, and we're like teenagers. We're so giddy about how much fun we're having doing that. So we ride right through that space right there. And that small portion where we ride through the parking lot is not the best experience. Now, we have not been threatened by or exposed to a risk personally, but we actually had our grandchildren once. And our youngest grandchild is 8, and that was one of our fears. And that didn't happen to you anywhere else on the trail. And so we like the idea that part of this is about adopting all of those assets that we have in Fayetteville that help define this sense of place. The time is up to you guys, but we're telling you we don't think it's necessary to hold adopting an effort that, or at least examining effort. And I heard other speakers, and I heard Councilman Petty, if you can get a better offer, you can get a better project, that's great. But this third of a land or 2/3 of an acre of a land, to us, gives a potential for the opportunity for our city to take a step forward and advance that sense of place that is tied to the Walton Arts Center, and that is tied to hopefully what will be the development of Theater Squared, and that is tied to the entertainment district directly on Dixon, and then those subsequent businesses off Dixon, and to the square and the connection by Rock, and to the Rock Street Festival, and to the library, and to the other developments that we hope will be a part of downtown. And so we tell you that we think this is a good project. Whatever you decide, it'll be right. You don't make wrong decisions, but we think this is a good project. And it isn't a time as of the essence, but it certainly isn't a, oh my gosh, we have to wait frozen in our shoes till we get some other information. Because if you're advancing economic development, we think this is a step in the right direction.
Thank you. Who else would like to address this?
I'm Barbara Taylor, and I'm a resident of Fayetteville, and I'm speaking to you tonight as a city appointee on the Walton Arts Center Council and representing the Arts Center Council today. I would like to preface my remarks by saying that I've long admired the work that Rob Sharp has done, and I think that his buildings are an enhancement to our community, and that there's a great deal of work and integrity in what he's done. So this is not a statement in opposition to his building, but rather a plea that we consider all alternatives. I would strongly encourage the city of Fayetteville to complete its comprehensive parking study for the Arts and Entertainment District before any development of the West Avenue parking lot is considered. The city's year-long parking study is designed to identify needs and demands of parking downtown and to give a better understanding of the complex and important parking challenges facing the Arts and Entertainment District. The findings are intended to update the original downtown master plan for the entertainment district and guide future development of the entertainment district, including the West Avenue parking lot, also known as the Walton Arts Center parking lot. Parking's a key issue for everyone who comes to Dixon Street. The Dixon Street Merchants Association, the Dixon Street Improvement District, and the Walton Arts Center expect the city's study to identify the quantity of parking spaces needed today, and more importantly, to determine how many parking spaces will be needed in the years to come. The plan will also help the city develop criteria for the West Avenue parking lot and understand the immediate steps that can be taken to make parking a better experience for patrons, customers, and visitors. We see the parking study as a critical first step, which needs to be completed before any further development plans are considered for downtown. A detailed assessment of current parking needs and the steps that are needed to meet the projected growth of the district are essential to understanding how best to address economic growth and parking requirements that will keep the arts and entertainment district vibrant and growing. We believe that it would be best to suspend the consideration of any further development of the West Street parking lot until the parking study is completed and criteria for future development, such as festival space, retail, mixed use, parking, and many more, can be determined by the city. In addition, we fully support an open and transparent process where the citizens of Fayetteville can have an opportunity to weigh in on any future development of the last open space in the downtown entertainment district, and through which all future development proposals can be reviewed fully, rather than considering just one. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Can I ask her a question?
Sure. Barbara, we have a question for you.
Ma'am, can I just ask you a quick question? I'm sorry, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, but do you have a timeline of when the Walton Arts Center will be completed and fully operational?
Yes, in early November of this year,
So a
of
few months away.
2016. Yes. In fact, we've already determined some opening celebration dates
Okay.
for the Walton Arts Center. So it'll be about the middle of November when all will be open. And as we did last summer, we've just closed for the summer to facilitate the building process, to make it go faster, so so the workers don't have to work around events that are going on. So last week, actually, it closed and will reopen in November, and all of the work at that time will be complete. And the whole of Fayetteville, we hope, will come and celebrate the reopening with us.
Thank you.
Now,
very
thanks for your question.
much. Sure, thank you.
Any other questions I could address? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Who else would like to address us on this? Yes, come up.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm Carl Collier, 2165 Manor Drive. I wanted to address you. You've heard about the Arts Center. You've heard from Sarah with the Dixon Street Merchants Association. I want to speak to you in regards to the Dixon Street Improvement District, which represents the property owners in the district. We were formed in 1987 to facilitate the building of both the Arts Center parking lot and the Arts Center. And the question comes to me is, what's the hurry? I'm not sure what, Matthew, what your goals are long-term, but I don't see any big rush. The value of that land is going to be nothing but up. And I think it'll far outweigh the opportunity cost that you're going to lose. The school district is not counting on that $80,000 every year. They haven't planned on it. At some point in time, the value will generate more revenue for them. One thing that we fear as a property owners association is that if you build this project and you take 0.39 acres off the south end of that lot, what's going to keep the next developer from coming to you and saying, well, you'd let them have it? I need 100 feet on the end of that lot. And what you're going to see, and you're going to be under pressure to do, is going to be like a domino effect. And we've talked about that in our meetings. The Arts Center fears that you're going to lose 290 spaces real quickly. We're going to lose all event space. And as the improvement district, we have offered to make the modifications to that lot, and we have shown you what we would like in the way of beautification of that lot. We've submitted several plans to that. And speaking on behalf of the Dixon Street Improvement District, we would do that with no loss of parking space to make it an attractive space and still make it a venue for us. Right now, the parking survey was done April 28th and 30th. School was already mostly out at the university. A lot of the kids had already gone home. Art Center was closed. There was no event, so you're going to see numbers that are minimalistic on demand on that. I want you all to wait till the full study's done. The Art Center will have been in full gear beginning in November. We'll have the winter to look and see whether that study really represents what we're going to be looking at demand-wise. I just think there's no hurry, and I think you're opening up a can of worms by even asking for proposals. You've seen Hunter Haynes. Hunter made a proposal for adding 1,000 parking spaces and a deck and a huge development for the whole lot. What we don't need is an over project that has a chance of failure. Right now, you're going to see a project, Rob's project, it looks fine, and yet you're not considering the staging that's going to be required to build that. You're not going to considering the staging that's going to be required by Theater Squared building. You saw the amount of staging that are required to build the deck, and it took that 54-space lot on Spring Street, filled it up with staging material. I just urge you all, let's use care, let's be prudent, take your time. There's no hurry. We can wait a year. We're not going to slow anything down that isn't worth the wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl, hang on.
Mr. Collier, can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry. How long have you been a part of the Dixon Street community? How long has Collier's been open?
1950, May 26th. In general, we've been in Fayetteville since 1917, and so this is our 99th year. And that's with experience on the square, coming all the way down block to Dixon Street. I think the merchants associations of those three areas all have good experience. In talking to them, none of them are in a big rush for you all to do anything in that area, but wait and let's see what's required after that parking study. That's what we want you to do. Wait for the full study. And also see if you think that it's accurate. Steve Clark has already said we're probably looking at triple the demand if the projected growth is what we think it's going to be. And that projected growth is going to be parking. Theater Squared is going to help fill up that deck that we just built by the Arts Center. So don't let its small numbers fool you right now. It's going to be needed, and that 290 spaces on the WAC lot are going to be needed also. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Who else would like to address us? Okay, I'm gonna bring it back to the council. Well, who would like to be first? All right, Sarah.
I think that this is an excellent proposal. You know, there was a study done a few years ago in Seattle that showed that for every professional living and working in downtown, they were able to support 5 additional service industry positions. And what this project allows us to do is put more residents and businesses downtown. I'm less concerned with providing parking spaces than I am in providing reasons for people to live and work downtown and shop and spend money, and people will find ways to get to desirable locations. This land is too valuable to be leaving vacant. Having a hole in our downtown is not good for our community vitality. And as far as setting a precedent for small lot development, I think that's an excellent precedent. If you look at how Dixon Street was traditionally developed, those storefronts are, 50 to 100 feet wide. And so I think it fits with the character of the community and the traditional town form that we've decided to make standard in our community. So I think this is an excellent proposal, and I look forward to moving ahead with it.
Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Well, I want to underscore what I said at the very beginning, which is,
Alderman Petty, could you turn your mic on, please?
yes, thank you. I want to underscore what I said at the very beginning, which I think it'd be wrong to vote tonight. I do think we need to have these, the existing and future demand analysis in hand before we vote, and we're going to have that soon. So I hope the council will agree with me on at least that point. I also want to thank everybody who spoke, in particular, Mr. Collier, who I think outlined what the real concerns are whenever he told us that there have been conversations about a domino effect and what might happen if we were to allow development even on the small portion of the property to proceed. And this concern that maybe that means that we're going to automatically, or at least be enthusiastic about developing the rest of the lot in a hasty manner. And that is precisely the reason that this is a 2-part resolution. And there's the one part that we're talking about, part 2. And part 1 is about formally committing us to not doing anything else with the other 2 acres until we have the full study in hand. Because a decision of that magnitude, of a 2-acre magnitude, does require a systems-wide analysis. But I maintain that a parking neutral decision that is only about 1/3 of an acre we can do with the interim analysis. And that's really it. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I know there was some criticism at the beginning about the math. I don't even think that's worth addressing at this time until we get into detailed construction plans. I think it works out there. I've looked at the right-of-ways. And I want to close just maybe my comments by underscoring what Steve Clark said, which is that talent is the name of the economic development game today. We